Mail-in ballots. He was fine with it.
Well, it was because his Republican strategists were panicking because they realized that they were going to lose without getting those mail-in ballots now. And I would imagine this time around, those same Republican strategists are also panicking because if he goes out there and starts to spread the word that mail-in ballots aren't going to work, this is going to be a real problem in the midterms.
Sam Seder from the Majority Report joined Phillip on CNN, where the two of them teamed up against a couple of MAGA loyalists defending Trump's latest stunt, his wild claim that he's preparing an executive order to ban mail-in voting. We're going to watch some of those CNN clips with Abby, Sam, and the rest of the panel, and then I'll break it all down with my own thoughts. Let's dive in together.
Tonight, Donald Trump plays a throwback, declaring that he'll lead a movement to eliminate mail-in ballots.
Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened. Massive fraud all over the place.
Mail-in ballots are not corrupt. Fraud rates in federal elections are tiny, and dozens of countries use mail-in voting, despite what Trump claims. So why is the president suddenly so amped up about this again? Well, apparently someone got in his ear. Someone with a history of fair elections and a wealth of knowledge when it comes to election integrity.
Vladimir Putin, smart guy, said you can't have an honest election with mail-in voting. And he said there's not a country in the world that uses it now.
Yes, Mr. President, he would know because you'll recall that Vladimir Putin changed Russia's constitution to remain in power. Many of his opponents are either dead or in prison or in exile. Russia is notorious for vote tampering, restrictions on monitors, and rampant voter intimidation. And yes, Russia has interfered with America's elections. But perhaps the most important point is that it's unclear what the administration could actually do to end mail-in voting, since that power belongs to the states. Just ask the Constitution. Joining us in our fifth seat at the table is Sam Seder, host of the Majority Report. I don't know if President Trump forgot that he did this, but let me just play it. This is September 2024, about a year ago, when he said this to his own supporters.
You know that absentee ballots are about to go out in North Carolina? In other words, it's time to start thinking about let's vote. So important. This will be the most important election in the history of our country. So whether it's mail-in ballots, early voting, voting on the day, you got to get out and vote. We want to save our country. We're the only one going to save it. That other group of people, they're going to destroy our country. We can't let that happen. Go out and vote for Trump.
Mail-in ballots. He was fine with it.
Well, it was because his Republican strategists were panicking because they realized that they were going to lose without getting those mail-in ballots now. And I would imagine this time around, those same Republican strategists are also panicking because if he goes out there and starts to spread the word that mail-in ballots aren't going to work, this is going to be a real problem in the midterms for those Republicans, plus the fact that he has no authority to do this. I mean, he tried to pass he wrote up an executive order a couple of months ago to deal with the voting, and he got shot down by 2 different federal judges. So there's really there's no path for him here, and it's sort of fascinating that all it takes is one suggestion from Putin. I mean, what were they doing talking about 2020 during these meetings? Like, he's like a cat. Like no object permanence here.
Where were the staff to remind the president that it's actually not true what he claimed, which is that the federal government let me just read it actually. Remember, the states are merely an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of our country to do. That is not at all what the Constitution says. You know that because you're a conservative.
Abby,
Sam Seder hit the nail on the head, and honestly, he couldn't be more right. What we're seeing here isn't just another off-the-cuff Trump rant. It's a pattern. Time and time again, Trump reveals himself as someone who doesn't respect democracy, but instead idolizes strongmen and dictators. He has no real affection for America's allies, not Canada, not the European democracies that actually stand for freedom and the rule of law. Instead, he keeps gravitating toward people like Vladimir Putin, leaders who crush dissent, poison opponents, and rewrite constitutions to stay in power. Now pause and really think about the absurdity of this. The President of the United States, a man who's supposed to defend American democracy, is openly saying our elections should look more like Putin's rigged elections in Russia. That's not just misguided, it's dangerous. Because what Trump is really telling us is that he doesn't want a free and fair system at all. He wants a system where he can control the outcome, where dissent doesn't matter, and where he alone gets to decide the rules. That's not democracy, that's authoritarianism. And the fact that he's comfortable saying this out loud should terrify every single person who believes in the Constitution. It's insane.
I agree with you. States have a huge role to play when it comes to elections. We also know that in 2020, as a result of the COVID pandemic, a lot of states went very aggressively in the direction of mail-in ballots.
Which they are entitled to do because they are in charge of the time, manner of the elections. They are in charge of that.
Even the U.S. Election Assistance Commission has studied mail-in ballots and said that there are a certain percentage, I believe like 500,000, that probably aren't ultimately delivered to their final destination. So I'd put this question to all of you. If you won the New York lottery, would you mail in your $1 million winning lotto ticket, or would you want to take it physically to the office to cash it in? I think if anybody wants to ensure that their vote is counted, the best way to do it. Well, then what about
Did you think about that all day? That was a terrible analogy.
What about the Democrat Attorney General of New Jersey, who just an hour from here in Paterson, New Jersey, there was corruption and they're investigating voter fraud because there was a politician who used mail-in ballots to try to steal the election.
Voting is like I like the lottery. Let's talk about why that analogy was just terrible.
And this is where it gets predictable. Because the MAGA guy does exactly what you'd expect. If Trump flips tomorrow and suddenly says, mail-in voting is the greatest thing ever, every single MAGA mouthpiece would be out there repeating it like gospel. That's the whole point. They don't have principles. They don't have a moral compass. Their only guiding light is whatever Donald Trump happens to say in the moment. It's not about facts. It's not about consistency. It's not even about what's good for the country. It's about loyalty to one man. If mail-in ballots are painted as evil, they're against them. If Trump wakes up one morning and decides mail-in ballots are the key to winning, suddenly MAGA will be all for it. That's not policy. That's cult behavior. And it proves again that for MAGA, winning at all costs matters more than democracy itself.
So like voting is a right and playing the lottery is a privilege, right? Those are two vastly different things. And the right means that you should make it free and fair. Everyone should have access to it. We should actually be trying to make voting as easy as possible so that we're more inclusive. Things like Oregon is what we should be talking about, where they have Tobias Reed and automatic voter registration. That's where we should be going with this, not necessarily trying to crack down on it. Yes, we want to eliminate voter fraud, but if we want to go back to 2020, and the great irony in this, and I haven't heard either one of you all, neither one of you all have said a bad thing about Vladimir Putin tonight. Neither one of you all. And Vladimir Putin is someone who literally has killed his enemies, has killed his political opponents, has pushed them off roofs and poisoned them and all of these things. And he is the one who said that this is something you should deal with. And he went on Sean Hannity and quoted it.
I did say, by the way, that I believe the first comment I made was that he was a tyrant and shouldn't be trusted.
You're drifting from.
You know what?
You're drifting with Vladimir
I give you
Putin.
credit. I was
this
really
talking
talking
about Vladimir Putin. This is about voter fraud.
Say something bad about Vladimir Putin.
That is about voter fraud. But let's hear
not just
one
Paterson.
example.
I'm going to give you 5. In Paterson, New Jersey is the one.
Just 5?
No, more.
That's it?
I found a bunch.
How many votes are we
Sioux City, Iowa, North Carolina, 9, 2018, Appalachia, Virginia, 2006, Miami mayor was overturned in 97, Bridgeport, Connecticut was just overturned.
Okay.
Not every ballot.
So Joe, tell me
not every ballot.
Tell me the degree to which mail-in voting fraud was enough to change the result of a presidential election. Where is that?
I can't pronounce the name. In Michigan,
of a
in Miami,
presidential election.
But not every election is about the presidential race. We also elect people at the state, federal, and local level.
But
the point I'm trying to make is
Trump is making this statement let me finish the point. On his own experience.
Let me finish the point. Not every ballot mailed in is fraud. But it's almost always the case where you have fraudulent ballots. It's done not just by mail ballots, but paper ballots, absentee ballots. So if the president wants to secure ballot integrity in a better way, I am 100% for this. Now, you all, last segment, were so worried about the MAGA base and how they would react to troops on the ground.
Can I just ask a clarifying question
thrilled
of
about
you,
this.
Joe? you said you're all for what the president wants to do, but he is saying he wants to federally, he wants the president by decree to ban mail-in voting in this entire country. Are you for that?
No idea how I was going to do that.
Okay, are you for that? Because you just said that you're for what
I'm
he
willing
wants to
to wait
do.
for the executive order and see if
You
it's
just said
valid.
you're for what he wants to do.
If he figures out a way to meet the requirements of the court that struck it down previously, if he figures out a way to do it, I'm for it.
He can't, though.
If he can't, then he can't. But it's a thing that I would hope, and I've actually supported the New York State legislature in doing this. I would write a check to the South Carolina legislature.
Let me ask you a question. Are you in
favor?
favor of when you turn 18, you're automatically registered to vote?
But you're acting like
Are you
mail-in.
in favor
But you're
of that,
acting like
Chuck?
mail-in. Hold on.
Are
You're
you
acting like mail-in ballots are something universal.
Bakari Sellers was absolutely spot on when he said the real goal should be making voting easier, not harder. That's how a healthy democracy works. You expand access so more people can participate. But here's the ugly truth. Republicans and MAGA operatives don't actually want higher turnout. They know when more Americans vote, Democrats win more often. So their entire strategy is about putting up roadblocks, restrictions, bans, and manufactured scandals, anything to shrink the pool of voters. And then you've got Joe Belly doing what every MAGA loyalist does. They love to brand themselves as the facts don't care about your feelings crowd. But in reality, their entire argument is built on nothing but feelings. Abby Phillip tried to press him on the evidence, but of course he couldn't point to any. At best, they can dig up one or two. Random cases of alleged voter fraud, and usually it's not even Democrats doing it. It's Republicans caught red-handed gaming the system. More often, it's just somebody making an honest mistake, like voting in the wrong precinct because they didn't know where they were supposed to go. Meanwhile, the hard data is crystal clear. Independent studies have looked at literally billions of ballots, and the amount of fraud they found is microscopic. Fractions of a percent, way too small to ever swing an election. But that doesn't matter to MAGA, because they're not operating on facts. They're running entirely on vibes, outrage, and conspiracy theories. Every time they cry fraud, it's about stirring emotions, not proving anything. For a movement that claims to be tough and rational, it's all just feelings and never facts.
Trump was wrong. It wasn't one country. You were wrong too. It's not dozens. It's 12. 12 countries on planet Earth have
that's
12
actually
have,
not,
12 have universal.
12 in Europe.
22 have other ways of getting it not universal. So that's 34. That's 15% of the countries on Earth.
Joe, we also don't have universal mail-in ballots. We don't have that. So
cases.
the idea that, listen, it's not 12, okay, but there are over 30 countries in the world that have mail-in and ballot voting, A. And B, to your point, Sam, Donald Trump is messing with something that his voters use, okay? 24% of Republicans used mail-in ballots in the 2024 election. That is a little bit down from 2020 when there was a pandemic, but it just goes to show that you then take those voters, some of them are in the villages in Florida, they're in Utah where they automatically send mail-in ballots to every registered voter.
Right.
Abby Phillip made another excellent point that often gets overlooked. A huge chunk of Republican voters, MAGA's own base, are older Americans. Many of them physically struggle to make it out to polling stations, and mail-in voting is what allows them to participate at all. Then you factor in people with disabilities who also rely on that system, and of course, the military personnel stationed overseas. For them, mail-in ballots aren't just convenient, they're essential. That's why this whole Trump crusade against mail-in voting is so bizarre. There isn't actually a crisis here. There isn't mass fraud. What you've got is a system that's been working for decades, making voting more accessible. But Trump takes something that isn't a problem, spins it into a conspiracy, and suddenly MAGA followers treat it like an emergency. It's political theater, turning a non-issue into a weapon. And notice the pattern. Trump and MAGA never focus on fixing real problems that Americans face. They focus on breaking or undermining systems that are already functioning. Whether it's healthcare, democratic norms, or now voting access, mail-in voting works, it empowers people. But because it doesn't serve Trump's personal interests, he's determined to sabotage it.
The real story here, it seems to me, because you've got just a CNN poll out a month ago showed Democrats 75% more enthusiastic than Republicans at 50%. So if you're talking about getting to the election poll sites, the side that has more enthusiasm is a lot more likely to get there in the first place. This is Donald Trump worried about the midterm elections and trying to set up reasons why the Republicans are going to lose. I mean, this is a two-pronged thing. We're seeing it in terms of the redistricting, and then the other part is already start to build in the excuses. I mean, that's what's going on here, because he knows he's not going to get this past the federal judge.
There is a reason that the framers of the Constitution put this in the state's hands, right? And not so long ago, this is what the Republican Party platform in 2016 said. Federalism is a cornerstone of our constitutional system. Every violation of state sovereignty by federal officials is not merely a transgression of one unit of government against another. It is an assault on the liberties of individual Americans. Now, here we are in 2025, and Donald Trump is saying the states are just vessels to do what I want them to do.
The states are a laboratory of democracy. And
okay, that's not what he's saying. He's saying
I'll tell you what
the
I'm
states.
saying.
I'm asking you about what he is saying. He is saying the states are agents for what I want.
I don't know if that's the correct interpretation.
It's either right or wrong.
not.
Is it right or is it wrong?
And that really sums it up. In Trump's world, everything boils down to whatever Donald Trump wants in the moment. That's the standard, that's the rule, and that's the danger. Republicans and MAGA love to preach about states' rights when it benefits them. But the second it doesn't, they throw that principle right out the window. Suddenly, it's all about federal power and Trump's word being law. It's not about consistency, it's not about the Constitution, it's about serving one man's ego. Sam Seder was absolutely right to call this out because Trump and the GOP know they're in real trouble. The question is, are they simply laying the groundwork for excuses when they lose? Or are they actively trying to rig the system to tilt the playing field in their favor? Honestly, it's probably both. Look, around gerrymandering, voter suppression, and now a push to ban mail-in voting, it's all part of the same strategy. Make it harder for ordinary people to vote, because when everyone has an equal voice, Republicans lose. They know it. That's why they're desperate. At the end of the day, democracy only works if it's accessible to everyone. Mail-in voting helps millions. Seniors, people with disabilities, military members overseas. But instead of protecting that, Trump and MAGA want to destroy it. Not because it's broken, but because it threatens their grip on power. And that's why this fight matters so much. So now I'll put it back to you. Do you agree with Abby Phillip and Sam Seder that protecting mail-in voting is about defending democracy itself? Or do you buy into the MAGA excuses built on nothing but conspiracy and loyalty to a leader who doesn't care about democracy at all? Let me know what you think down below. And if you found this breakdown valuable, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around, because we've got plenty more to unpack together. I'll see you in the next one.